Okay everybody, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to take out the trigger pack, safety, and whatever. I'm just going to take out the little trigger pack that's on this, so I'm going to go ahead and field strip and tell you more what I'm talking about, and then we'll just do it. Okay, I apologize if you can hear my dogs in the background going crazy. They're just dogs doing what they do, and they're playing with each other. But anyways, this is what I'm talking about. Just this little square piece. It's not really too deep. It's just going to be the square piece. We're going to be able to see the hammer on the inside, the trigger bars where they end, and the little spring that gives this tension, because it doesn't run all the way down. It's just a very tight spring that goes about into here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to punch out this roll pin right here. And one piece of advice is just go ahead and move all this crap out of the way. You're not going to need it. I just move it out of the way, and you're probably going to want something like wood or whatever to help you out. Now this is kind of tricky because you got to hold up the gun while you're hammering out this little pin, and I recommend going from top to bottom, going out and going back in. Now it's just hard to find a groove that you can stick in. Actually, I'll probably just switch hands. I'll be a lefty for this, so I can hold it up and punch it out. This can be kind of difficult to do all this at once if you don't have a hand to help you or a vise or something. I mean, you don't really need to hammer it out with like a real hammer, but I find this kind of takes care of the issue quicker. So I'm going to put it in this little area right here. This is just a wooden thing for punches. You've probably seen them at stores or whatever. And then twist out your... This is like the smallest punch in a pack of 4 that I got on the internet. And of course this end of the safety just comes right off. Now this is where it gets a little bit interesting, where you're actually going to need a little flat head. A little flat head will work, but you can use a different type or whatever. I'm going to let this focus first. So what you see here is a little spring that goes into this groove, and then you're going to see a smaller groove right here, right next to it. What you're going to do is simply, you're going to take this spring, you're going to lift it up and put it in that little groove, and you can see it's kind of off. This is taking tension off the safety bar. So basically you can wiggle it out, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Now remember, this whole pack is under spring tension from the hammer and such, so what you can do is kind of ease the hammer forward, and then it should make it a little bit easier to pull out this safety. And this thing has a little bit of lubricant on it because I wanted to see if I could smooth it out a little bit, and basically it didn't really work that well. So anyways, I'll set that to the side here as well as this whole thingamajig, and I'll put this all on the wood because I'm going to need a paper towel. And actually I'll just leave them on there because they're going to have to all be wiped down anyways. So I'm going to put that screwdriver aside, and then the good thing is everything's self-contained by this one pin right here. And I'm not going to take that apart, obviously. You don't need to. I would just use a Q-tip if I really needed to clean this stuff out. I don't want to have to screw with putting this spring back in. It's under a lot of tension, and yeah, it doesn't seem like a fun time having to put it all back together. So anyways, let's go ahead and get to work. So first thing I wanted to do was go ahead and show you guys the little spring that's down here. It's really kind of hard to see, but you can see the little spring right here. Kind of hard to get the light. There we go. So you can see the spring gets compressed into this little hole down there. Not really that big of a deal, but you can put some lubrication in a needle oiler down there. Just work it back and forth, and that should make the double action a little more pleasant. But also the trigger bar, you could lubricate where it goes and push this down and try to make the travel a little bit nicer, but you're probably not going to have much luck with that. But I try to keep as much lubrication down, especially or away from this area, especially during break-in. I'll put a little lubricant at first to kind of condition the metal, but then from there it's like a dry lube. That's my best recommendation. Then it can wear in naturally, and that's really what you want to do. You don't want to prevent wear because it'll take longer to get I guess you could say, a smoother trigger pull. This trigger is particularly gritty, and I did put some oil or whatever on here, and you can see it's still pulling some stuff out just from the friction and running it over and over again. And so, yeah, you can kind of see on the trigger bar where the friction points are. Let me go ahead and zoom in for you. So you can kind of see where the friction point is on this side, and on this side there's not too much friction, but it's going to be enough to be kind of annoying, and you will feel a little bit like on the edge here and right there. So there is going to be some stuff moving around, and you can really alleviate that by letting it by just shooting the gun or dry firing it with a snap cap inside. Again, snap cap, very important. Now these trigger return springs, I recommend having a few of these on hand. CZ does sell them. I would definitely have them on hand because trigger return springs on all double action, single actions are a weak point. Now some pistols like the SIG don't really have these, but really any double single action pistol will need to have the springs lubricated to kind of take down the friction a little bit and really make it a lot easier in the overall operation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a general wipe down of the little trigger system here, and I like that this is one whole module, and of course it'll be under spring tension, but you know, pretty easy to deal with. Now one thing I think a lot of people are missing is how these things work and why you get some grit even in single action. Well, it's because of this bar right here that's moving. This piece is actually pretty thick, which is a good thing, but it's brushing up against the hammer. You can see several different sections here, and you can see this top section back here, and you can see this base section right here. This piece is for the single action, this is for the half cock mode, and of course up here this is for basically when it's all the way forward. But you have, you know, your three different positions or whatever, but that's something to consider. So it is a friction point, and when it's dry and you're basically just dry firing it, you can see that you do create a little bit of wear here, and that's good. That is a good thing because you're actually working in the metal surfaces and kind of taking off the little finish there, and kind of going to end up making it a better trigger, and you know, wearing the spring just slightly. And again, you want to lubricate that, but I really do like this setup where it's just a little trigger pack that is all the guts of the trigger, and you can take care of it all in one. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the frame, and this, when I first did it, was a pain in the ass, because basically the best way to make sure it goes in is to make sure it's pushed down just like so, where you can see all the way through it, and you'll have to pull down the hammer a little bit, but while you're doing that you have to push in the safety, and this is where it gets a little tricky, painful, and really annoying. So with the safety, you're going to want to make sure it's pushed in all the way. But one thing to note is that you could put a drop of lubricant right here where this little hole is, and really save yourself a lot of anger and hatred. And also right here, not much, but enough. And you're going to have to wipe off excess when it goes up against the frame, because it's really going to be flush and it's going to be rubbing, as you can see from the friction points on here. So again, this is how I'm going to go ahead and do it. You are going to have to push down because everything is under spring tension underneath it. So anyways, in order to be able to pull it back, you're going to have to pull the hammer back just a tad, kind of like that, and insert. And this is where it gets, you know, ugly, so you got to do it again, and then there we go. So this time it went in pretty well, but you can see that past the hole there is a little bit of extra on the other side, and you need that in order to make sure that this goes on properly. Now you can lubricate underneath here, which it looks like it did get a little bit of lubrication, and of course it typically falls right in, and you know, making sure you can see all the way through, and then taking your little roll pin, which is right here, and pushing that in. Now I don't use a roll pin to, you know, punch this back in. I just use my hammer and some light taps, and typically it'll see itself in, and I let go of it. But as you can see, it sees itself in, and it's just gentle taps, because you don't want to flatten out a roll pin. That would just be the worst thing you can really do. But basically I try to tap it in flush with the frame, and then a little bit more, and then use my little roll pin punch and carry it on the rest of the way. And it doesn't take much to get it flush, and you can actually go a little bit deeper, just subsurface if you wish. And this thing's pretty tight, so I don't think you have to worry too much about it walking out, and you might get the roll pin sticking a little bit. So let me go ahead and try to show you that. So as you can see, it's sunk in a little bit. Not much, but enough. And here's the bottom side. It is also just a little under the surface, so it's pretty even. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that's all the tools you really need. I mean, you got a screwdriver, you know, a little thing to put the spring back in, but you can just use your fingernail right here to push it back into place. And I'm sorry, my camera is not wanting to focus that much. And that's pretty much it. You flip it with your fingernail back into the slot and it's good to go. And every time I take this apart, this safety smooths out more and it's easier to kick off, which is a definite change. So a little roll pin punch. This thing's got to be tiny, of course, to be able to fit through here, because the last thing you want is to force a bigger one in here, then your roll pin's going to basically slide through. But at the same time, you'll probably get it a little tight, but still easy to pull out. So that's just my method. If I want to break this in, I try to basically dry up this area a little bit after putting some lubricant in there, just to give it a nice coating to kind of prevent crap from sticking and prevent aggressive wear. But I do want it to have good wear. So that's, you know, basically putting this getting this thing ready and kind of helping it out and disassembling it. So that's pretty much it. I mean, we just put the pistol back together now, and good thing is this thing's pretty tight, pretty good fit on it. So that's pretty much it. Anyways, I appreciate everybody watching this video, and go ahead and comment and also subscribe to the channel if you wish, and you'll have more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching.